1 year and 10 days after Hamas terrorists stormed southern Israel, killing more than 1,200 innocent people and kidnapping another 250, the man who organized and led the attack, Yahya Sinwar, was killed by Israeli forces.
Israelis were happy to know that Sinwar was eliminated. Some of the Israelis were celebrating that on the streets. I personally must say that, though of course I shed no tear for the killing of Sinwar, I'm resentful of this expression of celebrations on the street. I don't think it's something that, at least it's not my way.
Avi Melamed is a former Israeli intelligence officer and negotiator. He's now an author and Middle East advisor. I've spoken with him several times since the start of the war in Gaza, so for a full account of our previous talks, be sure to check out san.com. After news of Sinwar's death broke, I wanted to get Melamed's insights on what happens next. What happens? I mean, there's a lot of talks, could this be the impetus to get the hostages home? Could this be the impetus for peace talks? Hamas's leadership is now all but completely destroyed. There might be one or two, low-level officers left.
Look, there are different aspects of it. First, the Hamas leadership exists. I mean, you got the leadership outside of Gaza Strip. Also in Gaza Strip, though most of the leadership of Hamas in Gaza was eliminated, and most of its military structure has been demolished, Hamas still continue to maintain some sort of operation on the ground. Obviously not in the same level that it had at the beginning of the war, October 7th. So that is correct, that the moving of Sinwar could potentially open a new path maybe for some more productive, fruitful discussion about the issue of the hostages. However, we should remember that apparently there is no one factor that holds the hostages. They are scattered.
Hamas still holds around 100 hostages. Not all of them are thought to be alive, but of the ones that are, Melamed says they're being held not just by Hamas fighters, but by fighters from other factions of Iran's axis of resistance, as well as quote-unquote Palestinian civilians still in Gaza.
I'm concerned, for example, about the situation where, militants who hold these hostages now basically would decide just to execute them, just walk away. The same goes as for civilians in Gaza that are holding hostages in their homes, and now maybe will say, look, maybe I should just get rid of them and that's it, and I'll walk away as if nothing happened.
Melamed is also concerned about the potential for some in the Arab world to glorify Sinwar, saying the dramatic video showing the terrorist leader's last moments are fueling two very different narratives.
The famous shot taken by the drone and Sinwar throwing a stick on the drone fuels sentiments of glory and admiration in the Arab world to Sinwar. Basically, people are saying he was fighting to his last breath against the Israeli occupier and so on and so on, which is very disturbing, because there are voices in the Arab and the Palestinian world who actually says the opposite, and they're saying, look, this man has inflicted a disaster upon his own brothers and sisters. This man lived violently, died violently, humiliated, abandoned, neglected, while his own brothers and sisters have been suffering for the consequences of what he has done. What's to glorify you?
So will Sinwar's death lead to a ceasefire? Melamed says potentially, but not necessarily. It's also not clear what Sinwar's death could mean for the region as a whole. Israel invaded Lebanon to drive out Hezbollah, and we're all still waiting on Israel's response to Iran's October 1st ballistic missile attack. But both Hezbollah and Iran said from the beginning of the current conflict they would support Hamas and attack Israel incrementally for as long as the war in Gaza continued. If Hamas installs a new leader who is open to a ceasefire, Mohammed thinks that could be the out Iran was looking for.
Bottom line of this whole mess currently is that in the Arab world, the overwhelming narrative is actually saying the axis of resistance have been severely beaten. The Mullah regime has been severely beaten, and I can tell you that many people in the Arab world definitely shed no tear about that. The more this axis and the Mullah regime is weakened, the better are the odds for more stability in the region, and the better are the odds for Israelis and Palestinians to move forward in a more positive trajectory.
For Straight Arrow News, I'm Rand Robertson. For more of our reporting on the conflict between Israel, Hamas, and Iran's axis of resistance, log on to san.com or download the Straight Arrow News app today.